In January of 2018, the Indiana State Board of Education authorized the creation of a school transition task force to develop recommendations informed by community input as to the best path through which 3 of the state's turnaround academies will transition away from state intervention. The task force aims to make recommendations to the state board in March of 2019, affording the teachers, students, and the entire school community time to successfully transition. Yet, before the choices facing the state board are explained, it's critical to understand what led us to this point. In 2005, Emma Donnan Middle School, T.C. Howe Community High School, and Emmerich Manual High School were among a number of schools statewide that were placed on academic probation based on poor academic performance. By 2010, Donnan, Manual, and Howe were still among the lowest performing schools in the state, making them F schools on the state's accountability system. Consistent with state law, the 3 schools were among 5 statewide that were deemed turnaround academies. In 2010, the State Board of Education selected Charter Schools USA as the special management team responsible for the overall operations and academic improvement of the 3 schools. After a year of study and preparation, CSUSA took full control of Donnan, Manual, and Howe in July of 2012. The 2012-2013 school year brought considerable changes to each turnaround academy. According to a report by Public Impact, enrollment dropped by nearly 50%, and the number of students eligible for free or reduced lunch increased between 8 and 21 percentage points. Then, in 2015, CSUSA entered an agreement with the Indianapolis Public Schools to operate an innovation school serving kindergarten through 6th grade within the Emma Donnan building, supplementing the middle school already operating in the facility. In that same year, the State Board approved the extension of CSUSA's contract. The contract as a special management team at Donnan, Manual, and Howe now expires in June of 2020. The same point at which Donnan Elementary's innovation agreement with IPS will be revisited. In 2018, the State Board approved the creation of a school transition task force to study the performance of the turnaround academies operated by CSUSA, collect input from the community served by each school, and make recommendations as to the path forward for each school upon the conclusion of the state's intervention. The task force expects to present a recommendation to the State Board in March of 2019, allowing the schools time to plan accordingly for the 2019-2020 school year. Beginning this fall, the task force, composed of a parent, a teacher, a member of the State Board, 2 community representatives, and representatives of IPS and CSUSA, began meeting monthly to oversee a process through which to gather input from students, parents, teachers, neighborhood residents, and community leaders. In the end, the task force aims to develop recommendations informed by community input as to the best avenues for these schools to transition away from state intervention. Should each school return to its corporation, Indianapolis Public Schools? Should the State Board ask CSUSA to seek a charter to continue operating under the oversight of an approved charter school authorizer? Should the task force recommend closing the schools or merging the schools with another higher performing school? As set forth by the state's turnaround laws, each is an option available to the State Board, a decision for which they are seeking the recommendation of the task force and the communities these schools serve. Ultimately, the path beyond turnaround status may vary by school. And while all these options exist for each school, Donnan is an especially unique case due to its partnership with IPS. Consistent with its innovation agreement, Donnan will transition from 2 separate schools within the same campus, a kindergarten through 6th grade innovation school and a 7th and 8th grade turnaround academy, to simply a kindergarten through 8th grade innovation school operated by CSUSA. The State Board has created its School Transition Task Force to study the relevant issues, collect community input, and make informed and recommendations aligned with the interests of the students, families, and communities served by these schools. So, what's next? In order to gather input, the task force has organized a series of community meetings where interested stakeholders will provide their input and shape the final outcome of the recommendation. Participants are encouraged to share their experiences as stakeholders in these schools and share their views on the pathways beyond state intervention that best serve the students, families, and communities of Donnan, Manual, and Howe. To make these meetings as convenient as possible to the various communities served by each turnaround academy, the task force is hosting 4 community meetings over the next 4 months, 2 on the east side of Indianapolis and 2 on the south side. The first Southside Community Meeting is being held at Emmerich Manual High School on Monday, October 29th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The second meeting, organized to be most convenient for East Side stakeholders, is being held at T.C. Howe Community High School on Tuesday, November the 13th at 6 p.m. The Task Force third community meeting, again most convenient to the East Side, is occurring at Brookside Park on January 29th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Finally, the fourth community meeting, most convenient to the Southside community, is being held at the Borello Family Center in Garfield Park on Tuesday, February 6th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Please join us at the location closest to your home, heart, family, or business, and be a part of this important moment in the shaping of the educational landscape of the Circle City.